and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting Australian Indian Radio and Brisbane Indian Times Facebook Daily Live Update. And hey, it's wonderful to have your company today and welcome to Wednesday, September the 9th. Let's take a quick look at what the weather's going to be looking like for us today. If I look out the window, it looks like a beautiful, beautiful day out there. But with that weather news, let's welcome Dilraj.
Good morning everyone. Weather for today will be maximum of 24 degree. Brisbane area is partly cloudy with 0% chances of rain. Light winds becoming easterly 15 to 20 km per hour in the early afternoon, then becoming light in the evening. Fire danger is high. Sun protection is recommended till 2:50 p.m. UV index is predicted to reach 8, that is very high. So till tomorrow, stay safe and have a good day. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dilraj. And so, as I said, welcome to Wednesday, the September the 9th. Australia's Deputy Chief Medical Officer says Victoria may revisit its controversial roadmap for existing lockdown restrictions. Our state's contact tracing system is yet to be revamped to deal with the future outbreaks. And a Sydney case cluster grows. A Balmain pub is now the first New South Wales venue to be closed down completely for a week over COVID-19 safety breaches. So what's up in today's news? Later on we will go through. Is Sydney Hospital closed for outbreak grows? Victoria may revisit the requirements of a roadmap plan, and Victoria contact tracing system is getting a digital overall, as we know that COVID-19 app did not work as they thought they would. And Sydney pub, the first New South Wales venue to be closed over coronavirus breaches. So all that and much more coming up very, very soon. But right now, let's catch up with the headlines.
In China, are at a new low this morning after the dramatic withdrawal of two Australian journalists yesterday. The ABC's Bill Birtles and Mike Smith from the Financial Review were rushed home after being questioned by Chinese police. Now, this means Australia's media outlets now have no correspondence in China at all. And there are fresh concerns as well this morning for Australian TV anchor Chang Lei, who's currently detained in Beijing. It has been revealed she is now facing accusations of criminal activities endangering China's national security. Beaches at the southern end of the Gold Coast are closed today after a fatal shark attack near one of Australia's best-known surf breaks. It happened at Greenmount Beach at Coolangatta yesterday afternoon. The victim, 46-year-old Nick Slater, was pulled from the water by fellow surfers and lifesavers. He suffered critical leg injuries. Paramedics rushed to Nick's aid, but he couldn't be saved. It's believed to be the first fatal shark attack on the Gold Coast since 1958, when drumlines and shark nets were first introduced. Schools and social media safety experts are warning parents and children to avoid viewing a violent video on TikTok. The video was originally live streamed on Facebook and has been widely viewed. Parents are being strongly urged to keep their children off social media, including Twitter and Instagram, over the coming days. And if you're someone you know is experiencing distress, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14.
It is becoming very, very stressful these days, when you look at what's happening online when you look at all the things that have been put online, even that person taking his own life, the euthanasia, that was afterwards taken down. But it is, again, very, very bad what's happening out there. And especially with the kids, because now they get access to the online very early in their life, and they all have their computers, they have their own accounts, they have what's known as Messenger for kids, but I'm still not okay with that because it leaves everyone very, very vulnerable, and we don't know what they are looking at. So before we go into the news, today is Wednesday. So Wednesday is the GlobeNet Realty's real estate update segment. And as we know, with the real estate updates right now, let's welcome to the studio Usha Chandra from GlobeNet Realty. Welcome to the show, Usha.
Good morning, Umesh, and thank you for having me again.
Okay, it's wonderful to get you here and talk about all the things that are happening in real estate. So let's get into the sales activity first up to look at what has the sales activity been in the last week or so.
In the last week, the sales activities have gone up. Like in Sydney, there was 1,486 properties on the market, and the average price was $795,000. Melbourne, the market was fairly down. It was 972 properties. Median price is $650,000. Brisbane market is stable, 736 properties, and average sale price is $500,000.
And that is wonderful to see that the prices are holding very well. As we know that CoreLogic said that after a slight fall last week, Queensland was the only state where buyer search volumes were at a historic high. So that is good news for Queensland. So what is the supply like? The number of properties on the market.
The supply is fairly limited. I mean, there is a lot of house and land packages being built for new home owners. The existing market, the older properties are down, fairly down. We have got a lot of buyers looking for the properties closer to the city. We still look shortage on properties.
So you still have shortage of properties. So with shortage of properties, what is happening? So people are looking around. So if that is not the case, if values are holding high and strong, and if the market demand is still great, so what are you doing to attract some of your listings?
We are doing a promotion. Actually, we are just started doing a promotion to get more listings. We are offering $5,000, not $500,000, $5,000.
You're talking about property values, aren't you? Yeah, you're too used to that, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm always talking in higher numbers. We are offering $5,000 to all the prospective sellers. To list and sell with GlobeNet Realty for the next 3 months, and the price will be drawn at the end of January after all the properties settle. And the promotion has started, and we're getting a few more inquiries where people are calling us for market appraisals.
Hey, that's wonderful promotion. So if someone is in the market to sell and they have to list with any agent anyway, but if they list with GlobeNet Realty, they go in a draw to win $5,000 and get a professional service backed by years of experience. How good is that?
That's excellent, Umesh. I mean, I've been working in the area for over 31 years, and I've got wealth of knowledge about current market conditions, about the sales histories. Few of the properties I've sold about 5-6 times, so I've got a good knowledge of the local area.
Of course, there's no doubt that you have the local knowledge, being the longest established agents in the area. But right now, moving on, we're coming on to the weekend, so there will be a lot of properties for sale. So, do we have a property for this week that you want to feature?
We have got a property which is at Windsor Court in Kellamvale. That property is refurbished, partly refurbished, and has been investment property of this current owner, and the owners would like to sell that property to move on to their next project.
Okay, so what's the property got to offer?
The property has got 4 built-in bedrooms, air-conditioned living areas. Main bedroom and second bedroom is air-conditioned, open plan kitchen and dining area. It's got it's on 484 square meters on an elevated position in a cul-de-sac location.
That sounds very good. It looks like amazing. So how's the long week? I mean, not the long weekend. I always thinking of long weekends. It was Father's Day weekend last weekend. So for the coming weekend, what are the opens looking like?
We, as I mentioned before, we don't have too many properties. Couple of them are rental properties which we are selling, and we only do inspections, open houses every fortnight on those ones. This week we have got number 1 Song Bedway still on the market, and we have got open house on that property in Tigam at 11 to 11:30. I've just listed a new property in College Green Estate, number 10 Danebank Place, which is offers over 480. It's a great property for owners who want to renovate. It's a renovate and profit property. So it's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and 2 cars. And it's open at 10 o'clock tomorrow on Saturday. And then Kellam Vale property, which I just spoke about, it's on the market for 549 plus and open at 1 o'clock, 1 to 1:30 on Saturday.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, all the opens for the weekend, so you can plan your week around. And of course, if you need further information, you can go on to GlobeNet Realty's website, and the open houses would be listed there. And of course, if you like to get news updates of what's happening in the area, subscribe to the GlobeNet Realty's newsletter as well. So thank you very much for the updates. Wishing you all the very best for the weekend with the opens. And is there anything that you'd like to tell our viewers and listeners before we wrap up this segment?
Yes, I would like to mention that our rental market is extremely good. We have got a lot of tenants who are looking for their new property. As I mentioned, like sales market, the rental market is pretty tough as well, where there is a lot of tenants looking for properties and not enough supply of the properties. We have got multiple applications, like Vicky, our property manager, was mentioning that she had one open house where there's over 20 prospective tenants came to look at the property, and she's got multiple applications, and people are offering about $20 more to get that property.
So that's $20 more per week.
That's correct, yeah. For the asking price is $490, and they're offering $20 more to get the property. So if anybody is looking to get a managing agent, Vicky, our property manager, has got wealth of experience, and she would love to talk to you regarding your future management.
And wonderful news that your rental section is doing quite well as well. So ladies and gentlemen, as we discussed before, the capital city properties listed for sale. Sydney looks like very high on the list with 6,061 new listings. Melbourne had only 1,468. Obviously that is understandable with the current situation there. Brisbane's looking pretty good at 3,545 new listings. Well, Adelaide is 1,400, Perth got 2,900. So that's amazing to see all these sales that are happening. So Brisbane, even though it's 3,545, so on a 12-month change, that's minus 11.5%, and on a 12-month overall change, that is minus 19.5%. But still, 3,545 listings is quite good, I would say, because it is amazing to see that kind of listings, which of course then goes into the sales part. So when you look at the sales, Sydney had 1,486 sales, and the median price there is 795. When you compare Melbourne 972 with the median price 650. And Brisbane still holding quite well, 735 sales and 500 is the median price. That's for houses. Now, on the same part, if we look at units, so the unit sales were 190 and the median price for units is 380. So when you look at the combined capitals, the number of sales 4,962, that's throughout the nation, and the median house price throughout the nation is 614,000. And of course, when you look at the units, the number of sales for units is 1,839 with the median price 523,000. So there's some amazing stats out there as well. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you, Usha, for coming on the show and sharing those information with us. We are proud that the GlobeNet Realty is supporting us in this show and bringing that very informative session with the stats and everything for our listeners.
Thank you, Mesh.
So, ladies and gentlemen, right now let's take a very quick commercial break.
ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी 1989 से लेकर अब तक का विश्वसनीय और माननीय ब्रिस्बेन का रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। उषा चंद्रा, जो कि ग्लोबनेट की डायरेक्टर है, अपने ग्राहकों को ईमानदार और एथिक सर्विसेज देती हैं। अगर आप ब्रिस्बेन की प्रॉपर्टी में पूंजी लगाना चाहते हैं और आप चाहते हैं कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी को प्रोफेशनली मैनेज किया जाए, तो आप आज ही कांटेक्ट कीजिए उषा चंद्रा को। लैंडलाइन नंबर है 38654466 और मोबाइल नंबर है 0419775416। और आप प्रॉपर्टी की अधिक जानकारी और करंट अपडेट्स के लिए हमारी वेबसाइट पे लॉगिन कर सकते हैं। हमारी वेबसाइट है www.globnetreality.com.au। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी आपका अपना लोकल रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। हमारा पता है ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, शॉप नंबर 5, 2281 सैंडगेट रोड, बुंदल, क्वींसलैंड। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, रियल एस्टेट इज अवर वर्ल्ड।
And real estate is the world. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this segment. Right now we will go and have a look at some of the news that's happening and breaking news as well. Well, first up, let's look at World Health Organization and see what's happening there and get us the latest update from World Health Organization.
In the coming months, we all hope to have good news about a vaccine for COVID-19. But if and when we have an effective vaccine, we must also use it effectively. In time, as production increases, we want all people everywhere to have access to vaccines. But initially, when supply is limited, priority must be given to vaccinating essential workers and those most at risk, including older people and those with underlying conditions. In other words, the first priority must be to vaccinate some people in all countries rather than all people in some countries. This is not just a moral imperative and a public health imperative, it's also an economic imperative. In our interconnected world, if people in low and middle income countries miss out on vaccines, the virus will continue to kill and the economic recovery globally will be delayed. Using vaccines as a global public good is in the national interest of each and every country. Vaccine nationalism will prolong the pandemic, not shorten it.
And of course, that's a message there from World Health Organization. And it is wonderful to see that, everyone's talking about the vaccine been coming out and how it would be made available to everyone. What would the balance be there? Well, right now, let's go to Queensland Parliament and that important announcements that was made yesterday.
Queensland's specialist COVID-19 healthcare support service launched on Friday. The service, available via a new hotline, is designed to ensure thousands of interstate residents who access healthcare in Queensland each month are supported when they enter the state. So far, they have fielded 231 calls since Friday. The new team will also provide a unique case-managed approach to those entering mandatory quarantine who have complex healthcare needs. Nurses, doctors, social workers, paramedics and representatives of other key state government departments are all part of the new service. Every exemption request relating to medical needs will be assessed by a clinician. While our border restrictions have been in place in some way since March, we have always allowed interstate residents to enter the state for medical care. Anyone can enter Queensland by road, rail or air for emergency health care without an exemption. People can also continue to receive essential healthcare in Queensland where they either have an ongoing relationship with a healthcare provider or if their healthcare cannot be provided close to their home. After all, our border restrictions are in place for one reason alone: to save lives and prevent harm. In fact, we have continued to treat people from outside our borders throughout this pandemic. The hospital and health services closest to the New South Wales border, Gold Coast, Metro North, Metro South and Children's Health Queensland, West Moreton and Darling Downs, treated more than 9,700 interstate residents in the last 2 months as inpatients, outpatients or emergency patients. 75% of these patients are New South Wales residents. That's more than 900 New South Wales patients treated in our hospitals each and every week. QAS transfers have increased this year compared to last. We facilitated 167 transfers from New South Wales, Northern New South Wales to Queensland from June to August 2019, and in the same period this year we have facilitated 219 transfers.
Did you notice the yellow ribbon? And do you know what that yellow ribbon was about? So that was Honourable Dr. Stephen Miles, LP, the Deputy Premier and Minister for Health and Minister for Ministerial Statements. So, did you notice the yellow ribbon? If you didn't, this is what yellow ribbon's all about.
Here we are at Parliament House today on Yellow Ribbon Day. If we cast our mind back only 12 months, we were right in the midst of the Binnaburra and the Stanthorpe fires.
I've been in the Rural Brigade 4 years. Enjoy helping the community, being part of the community. I think the community appreciates what we do for them, and we're there to, if any of the members of the community get into trouble, we're there to help them out.
Yellow Ribbon Day today is just a way of people in Queensland to wear a yellow ribbon, as I've got today, just to say thank you to those incredible 30,000 Rural Fire Service volunteers spread right across the entirety of Queensland. They're an absolutely amazing group of people. We're all ready to go and we're here to protect Queensland.
Ready to go and there to protect Queensland, and I'm pleased to announce that when we did a fundraising through Queensland Multicultural Council, they were the recipient of our funds that we raised, so Rural Fire Brigade. Amazing work that they do, and I think from next year we should appreciate that and probably spread the word a little bit beforehand so that people know about the forthcoming Yellow Ribbon Day. Unfortunately, this year it's passed, and whatever it was, good to see that the Queensland Parliament, of course, being there and supporting them. Well, right now, looking at the numbers of cases, so Queensland total cases 1,134, and the recovery at 1,096 recorded deaths, and Australia 26,374, and recovery 22,719. The deaths have been 770,000, and worldwide the cases now are at 27.4 million, and the recovery at 18.4 million, and 898 deaths that have been recorded. So, the numbers are there, and when we look at India, of course, the numbers are growing. US still leads the tally by far, and in India, the rate of recovery has increased as well. And of course, given the size of the nation and the population of the nation, it is very hard and very challenging, but they are still managing. And as we heard yesterday, there's quite a few things that are opening up. The metro is opening up, but some limited lines will be opening up with some restrictions in place about they will cross off the center seat, so that that's people sit on either side as well, and then you'd have to allow people to get off first before other people embark. I mean, many times people say that is common sense, but given the size of India and the way the population there moves, especially around trains and metro, it is very hard to manage that. Well, the big news coming out of Queensland yesterday was this. Well, I'll show you this footage, and the warning there is that the footage may contain scenes that might distract some viewers. So this is the victim was a 46-year-old Nick Slater, a surfer who died after being attacked by a shark in Queensland. As we know, Queensland waters are shark infested. Even though with shark nests in place, we often see incidents like this. A victim, 46-year-old Nick Slater, was pulled from the water by fellow surfers and lifesavers, suffering critical leg injuries, and he later passed away. So that's the footage that came out of there. Now, as we know, that these days the teenagers all around the world have a big voice. Now we have seen many protests, we have seen many student bodies coming up, and many times they come up with some very, very thought-provoking ideas as well. And of course, these days in Australia, the big news and the big concern for everyone is the mines, and especially the coal mines. So when we talk about mines, everything that's built in this world, the buildings which has got steel as part of it, that comes from the mines, silver, aluminium, which all the windows are made out of. That's all a result of mining. And of course, one area of mining has been the coal mining, and which has always grabbed a lot of attention because, the way that fuel is burned, that, produces a lot of carbon. Well, we have come a long way, but mining overall is the sector which has given Queensland a boost in these times of COVID. But, when we weigh up the balance, it's always the environmental plus the economic ones, and of course the long-term sustainability of the environment at question as well. So, these days teenagers are very vocal about that as well. So let's see what the teenagers have to say. So a group of 8 Australian teenagers have applied to federal court seeking an injunction on behalf of all young people to stop federal environment minister from approving a major coal mine extension.
It's fair to say I feel deeply anxious about the future right now. I see Australia particularly participating in a lot of inaction and exacerbating, continuing to bail out the fossil fuel industry when it's irresponsible and unsustainable.
Yeah, I'm really worried. Like climate anxiety, it affects me, and I know many, many people that it affects. It's really, really scary to think about the future and not know whether we'll have a safe time.
I'm also concerned about how it's going to affect my rural family members and their incomes, and just generally the ability to achieve my dreams in a world that might have a lot of difficulties.
So we're filing for an injunction to stop the Federal Environment Minister from being able to approve this Vickery coal mine. So it's just about this one project, but it could create precedent that can stop future coal projects, which is really cool.
We believe that she has a duty of care for young Australians and young people all over the world from the effects of climate change.
So I'm involved in this case because climate change is really important and it's only getting worse. I think that it's really important that the Federal Environment Minister is aware that she should be protecting the younger generations.
I'm taking part in this legal case because I'm fighting for my future. We need to take action before it's too late, and right now we're not seeing enough from the government.
If we win, it can have a major impact on all coal mines going ahead and all fossil fuel projects going ahead.
Taking actions like this is what gives me hope and keeps me going. I think this kind of case should be providing hope for a lot of young people, not just the litigants involved.
And that is a conversation that has to be taken place. And of course, there's always a debate from all the sides. Progress, the world has progressed to where it is now, and it is due to, mining and other activities. Of course, they have all been detrimental to the environment. Climate change, of course, humans have, attributed a lot to it, but many things are natural as well. The world is not the same from the day it evolved. The rule of evolution, as there is a constant change. We used to have dinosaurs running the world, and it was all full of jungle. It's not these days. So do we take everything back and go back to those days and start all living in the jungle as well? And that will be very free. It will be very congenial to the environment. But, we need to weigh up all the facts. And when we talk about the Great Barrier Reef, I know many people always blame just the mining, but there's many other factors there as well. One factor is all the humans going there. It is a natural environment. It's a natural habitat. Everyone, driving about, sightseeing, even going there in glass bottom boats, waiting on snorkeling. People go in and leave plastic there. They disturb that the natural habitat. So, that too. So if you need to stop one thing, you need to look at the whole thing in its totality. and look at what is contributing and all the other. Are you also willing to sacrifice some of your habits for the environment, or are you just going to blame it on one thing and take your debate in that lines only? So anyway, it's an interesting debate. We will, as I know, right here in this studio, once we had a discussion with Navdeep, the Greens candidate from our community, I think we will have this conversation further on as well as we move along. But right now, I'd like to, the other news that's being in the area is the foreign correspondents who have been taken out of China, as there's growing tensions and the relationship between Australia and China are at the historical low at this point in time. And of course, what's been happening with our journalists there does not help the situation. So let's hear first of all from Michael Smith, then we'll go to the second news there as well.
Mike Smith, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Michael. Great to be here and great to be back in Australia.
Yeah, we're so glad you are safe too. Now, all this starts at 12:30 last Thursday morning. There's a knock on the door of your house in Shanghai. Take us through what happens next.
Yeah, that's right. I was fast asleep. I woke up to a heavy pounding on my front door. I ran downstairs, opened the door. There are sort of 7 police officers all crowded in on my porch. They show me their badge. They ask me who I am. And then they sort of demand that they come into the house. So we sort of get ushered into my lounge room. I find myself sitting on a couch surrounded by these 7 officers in uniform. One has a huge camera. There's a spotlight shining in my face, and they sort of start reading from a document which is sort of outlining China's national security laws. But they also tell me that I'm a person of interest in a case, and they're going to want to talk to me. And they also inform me, which is the most disturbing, that I'm subject to what's called an exit ban, and I can't leave China. So this is all, as you can imagine, pretty scary, quite intimidating. I mean, there's no, they don't physically touch you, but it feels like harassment, for these people to come round at such a crazy hour and sort of lay this down on you.
How was the decision made after that for you to take refuge in the Australian consulate in Shanghai?
Well, that's right. The next morning I went, I consulted the embassy that evening. The next morning I went straight to the consulate. It's a very short drive from my house. During a series of meetings there, it was decided that myself and the ABC's China correspondent Bill Birtles both needed consular protection. It was decided that the risk to our well-being and safety was so great that we would have to be taken somewhere secure. So this is quite unprecedented. So I went to another location. Shanghai is not like Beijing. It doesn't have a big embassy compound. I was taken to another location that's still protected under the Vienna Convention. So technically the Chinese authorities can't come in. I had to quickly stop at my house on the way, get my bags. That was quite an operation on its own. And we had a couple of plainclothes people following us the whole time. So it was all quite intimidating.
Quite a hairy week, and you and Bill are safely back home. The last 2 Australian journalists to leave China. What gap does that...
And next up, we're going to listen from Bill Battles. He was the second journalist who came through the similar ordeal. So right now, let's hear from Bill Battles while he speaks about his ordeal after arriving back in Australia.
Bill Birtles, it's good to see you back on Australian soil. Welcome home.
Thank you, Stephen. Good to be back.
Now, can we just go back to a little bit of a wider view at first? We've known for some time that the atmosphere in China for Western journalists in particular is getting more and more difficult. But can you give a sense of what it was like working in China over the last year in particular? Did you find that the environment was becoming more hostile? Were you getting hassled more often? Can you give us a sense of what working in China has been like over the last year in particular?
Well, it's not just the last year, it's the last few years where access has really dried up for everyone. And so even the most benign chats that you might have once had with academics or particularly for the financial media, business types, there seemed to be this general environment of caution any contact with foreign media appeared to be increasingly unwise or even dangerous in the eyes of many people in China. This is somewhat different if you ventured out of, say, Beijing and spoke to normal people on the street about, about tourism or beer festivals or whatever, but anything where you tried to arrange interviews in advance, that's become increasingly difficult. And in the last year or so, as relations have dived with Australia, to be honest, it was already so hard that I didn't notice any particular difference. But before this all happened, we were pondering whether or not this year we could do a documentary. And we just thought, how on earth, with the access difficulties, could we possibly organise a documentary now? If we ring up and say, hey, we're Australian media, who the heck is going to talk to us, given that in the pages of state media every day, Australia is continually being targeted?
All right, well, let's go back to this pretty extraordinary week that you've just endured. Now, DFAT first came to you early last week, and basically said you should get out of China. Now, did they say why you should get out of China? What was the specific threat?
Initially, their information wasn't specific. In other words, they were saying, look, we advise you to get out, but they weren't giving us a specific reason to do so. And being a cynical journalist, I just sort of thought, well, this is going to be a very drastic move. If the only two remaining Australian media journalists pull out of China based on Australian government advice, then this will be interpreted by the Chinese government as a political move. It will make it very, very hard for Australian media.
Well, as Bill says, it's more a political move. But right now, let's hear from Penny Wong, and she says that press freedom is a core Australian value. And after that, we will listen from our Foreign Minister as well.
Australians believe that the right to freedom of expression, the right to freedom of opinion, and the right of the press to press freedom is a core Australian value. We believe Australian journalists and journalists everywhere should be able to do their work safely without the risk of intimidation or arbitrary detention. I would make the point that the Chinese Embassy's Deputy Head of Mission recently spoke at a very well publicised National Press Club address, and he spoke about respect and a better mutual understanding. What I would say to the Chinese authorities is we believe that the media play a vital role in fostering this understanding. The developments and the return of these two journalists mean that Australia is, I think, without an Australian organisation having a representation in China for the first time since the 1970s. We think that is unfortunate. We think that is deeply regrettable. It is certainly deeply regrettable that Australian news organisations have taken the step of returning their journalists to China, from China, and we hope that Australian media organisations will be able to have their people on the ground again in China soon. I want to thank on behalf of the opposition, and I'm sure I speak for all Australians, thanking Ambassador Graham Fletcher in China, the Consul General Dominic Trindade, all the staff at DFAT in Australia and in China who were involved in facilitating the exit of these journalists after exit bans had initially been put in place. I also make this point about the bilateral relationship, that the safety of and the treatment of Australian citizens in China we regard as fundamental to the bilateral relationship, and the actions of officials in relation to these journalists reflect that fact.
So, as you mentioned about the bilateral relationship, and we know that this move sort of brings down a low key within that relationship, and I hope that they maintain those close ties, but it will be dependent upon the behavior of the Chinese authorities. What did our minister, or foreign minister, have to say? As we know, DFAT, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, assisted in bringing or pulling Bill Battles and Mike Smith out of China in the recent days. So let's hear right now from our foreign minister and see what she has to say on the situation, and before we go into the other news for today.
Australia and China are different countries with different systems of government and different approaches, and I respect the systems and the legal environment which operates in China. I also want to note that Australia is, of course, a strong supporter of media freedom, freedom of the press, and that it is disappointing that after many years Australia will not have a media organisation present in China for some period of time.
So that's the news for today. And right now, let's very quickly just take a look at another news that's breaking up. And this is the news where, the law and order and, of course, the stability of mind comes into play as well. So the husband calls a triple O after returning home from work and stabbing his wife to death. Upendra Patmarsi fatally stabbed his wife Darsika after returning home from work and then called 000, but denied the matter on grounds that he wasn't of a safe mind.
Which country you from?
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Where you work here?
Mekwa Hotel.
Pardon?
Mekwa Hotel.
You need a seat?
No, okay, that's fine.
Take one, have a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
And that's a recording from the taxi.
Police emergency.
My wife and me had an argument and she died.
What's your address there?
15B. Danny Hill Way, Valka.
And how did she die? What happened?
She started a little knife.
You hit her with a knife?
Yeah, she took the knife and it's a little one. Then I told her that little one, I took the big one and hit her.
Any children in your house?
No.
Whereabouts in the house is she?
She started the violence.
That news courtesy of ABC. And right now,
having gone through the interview or the interrogation, however you want to frame it, with the police, I believe the whole episode was really more one of harassment of the remaining Australian journalists rather than a genuine effort to try and get anything useful for that case. Because in the end, we had quite a wide-ranging discussion with the police. It touched on things like Australia-China relations. It touched on things like
and ladies and gentlemen, right now we'll go to all the upcoming events
information did you go to. But it seemed to me
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful having your company, and until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. Please be good and stay safe.